Some may call her the Scarlet Devil or the Vampire because saying Remilia is too much work apparently. Those 3 extra syllables is hardcore, man. To the residents of the Scarlet Devil Mansion, she is known as the Mistress, or Remy if you're a certain librarian. Others may think of her as the bored-ass vampire who has nothing else better to do, which they're not entirely wrong. I will refer to said person as Remilia. Hello, Magi here, and welcome back to another episode of Character Profile, the series where I take an in-depth look at a character from games, print work, fan-related stuff, and anything that could be associated with Remilia will be discussed here. So, without further ado, let's begin the character profile for Remilia Scarlet. Name and their meaning. To start things off, we'll be looking at Remilia's name. Her full name is Remilia Scarlet. That, unlike most Touhou characters, gives strong Western feeling, likely French or British. The name Remilia is likely made up by Zune, in which is a variant of Emilia. And before you guys say anything, no, not related to this gal, okay? Back on topic, it means rival, emulating. Scarlet refers to the bright color red with a slight of orange and is a variant of Scarlet as a surname. The middle dot in the middle of her name is used in foreign names to show where the next word begins, like mentioned back for Alice in her profile and Dormy. Despite having a name, she is more commonly known as the Vampire, the Scarlet Devil, and sometimes the Mistress. It is actually quite uncommon for other residents of Ginsoku to refer to her proper name. However, Patchouli calls her Remy. That's definitely a friend's nickname for ya. Character appearance. In EOSD, Immaterial, and Scarlet Weather's official art, Remilia has red eyes, short light blue hair, and a light pink mob cap with a red ribbon decorated with white stripes. She wears a light pink dress with a red ribbon on both sleeves. It's seen with red trimmings in EOSD. A large red ribbon behind her waist with white stripes and a necklace featuring our Kaidakis-like centerpiece. Probably butchered that one as well. She also has a pair of large black bat-like wings on her back with a wingspan wider than her height. In Imperishable, she is seen without the necklace. Her height is short and is of a child not having reached the age of 10. Appearance in games and print work. We're going to see where Remilia has popped up in canon. To start off, let's look at the games. Her first appearance would be in EOSD as the final boss. She caused the Scarlet Mist incident because she wanted to be able to go out in the daytime without the sun hurting her. Not the best first impressions, considering the Scarlet Mist caused the humans to be sick. So yeah, not pleasant for them there. She shows up in Perfect Cherry Blossom but only in endings. She shows up as a playable character in Immaterial and Missing Power. Remilia leaves the match and tries to find the person responsible for the repeating feast. In Imperishable Night, she heads out with Sakya to punish the ones who took the full moon from the night sky since the fighting would be at night. Due to her weakness to sunlight, it's only possible to play her on night stages, which makes sense. In Shoot the Bullet, Remilia appears as a boss as Aya is trying to take photos of her spell cards. Remilia is on stage 7. She shows up in Mountain of Faith, surprisingly in an ending but only as a cameo. I wasn't expecting that. She appears in Scarlet Weather Raspberry as a playable character. In her story mode, she orders Sakya to drag any suspects to her due to the unpredictable weather. That's one way to handle the incident while being in your home. She's in Hiso Tensoko as a playable character but doesn't have a story mode for her. She's in Hopeless Masquerade as a background character at the Hakure Shrine. She is sitting on a chair with Patchouli and Sakya drinking some tea. She has a fairy maid holding a parasol to block sunlight from her. Her last game appearance as of this recording is an Impossible spell card. After reading the newspaper about Seija, she goes out and tries to stop her. Remilia appears on the 10th day. Here she tries to use spell cards that are considered impossible. Next will be about the print works. Her first print appearance was in Bohemian, archive in Japanese Red, extra of the Wind comic as a cameo. She shows up in Perfect Memento in strict sense as Q has a written article for the vampire. She shows up in Eastern and Little Nature Deity in Chapter 1 as a cameo. She appears in Strange and Bright Nature Deity as a secondary character. Remilia appears quite often in Silent Sinner and Blue as a secondary character. She's in Inaba of the Moon and Inaba of the Earth as a secondary character. In Oriental Sacred Place, she has 2 cameos, Chapter 12 and Chapter 18. Strangely enough, she's in Symposium of Post-Mysticism, but only on the cover. It's like Yomu all over again. She has a lot of appearance in Waldenhorn Hermit. She's in Chapter 16, Chapter 19 and 20 as cameos, 21, 23, and 27 as cameos, 33 and 42, which is the latest chapter that's translated as of this recording. Yeah, we viewers are definitely aware of her presence here. She's showing up in Forbidden Scrollery, but not as much as the last work. She's in Chapter 3 as a cameo, Chapter 6, 7, 42, 43, 52, and 53 as cameos. Still, not bad in my opinion. She's in Strange Creator of Outer Worlds, Volume 2, Profile Section, Cross Review Section, and the information is gonna help us a lot, trust me. She's showing up in the newest work, Visionary Fairies Enshrined, in Chapter 2, 6, and 7, which is the latest chapter as of this recording. Personality. Let's see how the Mistress usually acts. While she tries to cultivate the image of a mysterious and frightening vampire aristocrat, Remilia is as childish as her appearance suggests. However, she is surprisingly polite. Her long lifetime has only served to make her prone to boredom, and as a result, she prizes anything she finds novel. In Silent Sinner, she allows herself to be manipulated by Yukari simply because the alternative would have been boring. If it's entertaining, I guess it's alright. The other residents of the SDM spend much of their time catering to Remilia's odd whims, including numerous parties, though she does make an effort to appreciate and respect their patience. At least she's not a complete douche. Not only is she polite, she's pretty kind to humans outside of the main girls. Mentioned in Perfect Memento by an eyewitness, I was wounded and could barely move, but someone from the Scarlet Devil Mansion helped me and let me lodge in. They call it the Devil's Mansion, but she was unexpectedly kind. However, there wasn't anything much to eat, and since it was very noisy during the night, I couldn't sleep, so I ran away as soon as I could. Allowing a random person to stay in your home while they heal up is pretty cool. Remilia is respected by most yokai of Gensokyo, and she's said to have a charismatic personality. However, in reality, this is only because of the fear they have for her kind. While she can act in an overblown and grandiose fashion, she usually only does it during incidents or for important matters. Otherwise, she tends to exhibit childish behaviors. She enjoys novel things and isn't above playing along in silly games or allowing herself to be manipulated if it means starving off boredom. When you're as old as her, boredom really does suck. Her behavior may be due to the fact she actually has the wisdom of a 500-year-old being with the personality of a bratty child. Yet, it remains to be said that she has an overflowing and charming personality that even makes most fairies stick around as employees despite their freedom to leave at any time. Don't forget, they don't even get paid. Now that's dedication. Occupation/jobs. She doesn't have an occupation unless you consider being the mistress of the mansion as part of one. And being the master of such, she doesn't really need to do much in her home, does she? General information/backstory. As you've been hearing, Remilia is a vampire. In this section, I'll explain what Touhou's vampires are. Vampires in Gensokyo are a young but powerful yokai species, considered to be a type of devil, a sub-branch of devils if you will. They possess a far broader range of abilities than most yokai, including Oni level strength and Tengu level speed, but also have a far broader range of weaknesses. Vampires in Gensokyo show no particular aversion to the Christian cross, though they can still be harmed by spiritual attacks like any yokai. They do, however, show a vulnerability to roasted soybeans, presumably as a result of being identified with Oni. Now you may be asking how the fuck they're related to them. If you're looking at the kanji for vampire, and you see this third one, it's the same kanji Oni has, so that's why they're identified with Oni. While sunlight has the power to destroy them, they can survive brief exposures and even travel around a day, as long as they remain in the shade. They also forfeit growth and maturity and thus are biologically immortal. Key point on maturity there. The next section will be dedicated to the weakness the vampires in Gensokyo have. You know it's gonna be long if it needs its own section. Two weaknesses those in Gensokyo and our world have is sunlight and water. In Bohemian, Patchouli puts forth the consideration that perhaps these weaknesses are for the sake of camouflaging their other big weaknesses. Moreover, Remilia likes fermented soybeans because they're not roasted. She also dislikes Patchley's Setsubon festivals because merely picking up the roasted soybeans burns her, and she forbids anyone from throwing any at her. You can't blame her for banning that. It's unknown if this is because of a shared weakness to roasted soybeans or if the soybeans were simply too hot. With regards to weaknesses, in reality, whatever damage is inflicted, by their aforementioned regeneration ability, they're simply able to return back to how they were originally, and thus, in order to do vampire extermination, but it doesn't inflict a fatal wound on the first try, then there's no meaning. Thus, the case where they don't become weaknesses are not few. Additionally, in Touhou, the general weaknesses of vampires have become as following. Whether or not it is because of the nature of the effect, or it is for some other reason, Remilia seems to be strong to crosses. Also, Flandre used crosses in her spell cards, and Aya wonders if they are immune to crosses and shoot the bullet. In relation to flames, when Remilia touched the rocket when not been told to do so in Silent Sinner, her wrist was set ablaze and burnt to black by Patchley's spell, but was able to recover in an instant without worry. I wish I could recover like that. Before considering how flames could have purification power, they've also got the ability to inflict more or less damage physically, but it doesn't seem that in Touhou, it isn't possible to recover from damage by flames. Also in Strange, Remilia claims that not even the fires of hell could burn her body. I would like to see that in action, but it could be trickier to pull that off. While this could be just a matter of speech, relating to this what happened in Silent Sinner, there is a possibility of vampires being highly resistant to fire. A common thing vampire hates is garlic. She's no exception. Remilia hates garlic, but this doesn't seem to be related to a weakness as a vampire anywhere in the series. Just because she hates it doesn't mean she's weak to it. In Perfect Memento, since Q seems to be saying that the knives that Sakura possesses are silver knives for exterminating vampire, it seems that there exists the general idea that Touhou's vampires are weak to silver. In relation to how Remilia enters and exits the Hakura Shrine with an invitation, although it is possible to interpret that to be because Reimu has invited her before, but clearly there has been an instance where she was an invader, breaking into Aente in Imperishable, and therefore this weakness does not exist in Touhou. Regarding the death by beheading part, since Perfect Memento stated that she will recover back to normal even if everything other than the head has been blown up, the situation is that it is unrelated to Remilia. Some of her other weaknesses are sardine heads and shattered holy branches. I couldn't tell you why she's weak to it even if I tried. This next one is gonna be a doozy. So long ago, I made an interesting Touhou facts talking about an event called the Vampire Incident. I want to discuss it as it relates to Remilia and an update to it. In the video, there are two parts to this incident. One part is under the assumption that everything that happened was caused by Remilia. Another part was whether or not Remilia was involved in the incident but not the vampire that started it. This part is under the assumption if she was indeed the vampire that caused it. The SDM was in Gitsuke since 1998. She came while the barrier was still up and the yokai were weakened because they hadn't attacked any humans. She gathered a bunch of yokai and went on a rampage. She was defeated by a powerful yokai. They settled the devil's contract. The yokai who defeated Remilia would give her humans as food as long as she doesn't attack the humans of Gensokyo. Yokais didn't like this idea, so there were talks with Reimu on establishing ground rules for battles, which became the spell card rules. In 2003, another plot of Remilia would lead into an incident using the spell card. The next part is whether or not Remilia was involved in the incident, but not the vampire that started it. In Perfect Memento, it's never specifically stated that Remilia was the vampire that started it. Q mentions that any references of the vampires of Gensokyo must mean the Scarlet family. Q possibly speaks of the vampires of the incident and the Scarlet Mist incident to be the one and the same. In Reimu's section in her article, whenever Remilia is part of someone's conversation or inner monologue, they usually refer to Remilia as the vampire. It's shown in Cajun Lunatic from Eren, Yukari, Yuriko, Yomu, and Moku's point of view. Reimu is the only one who refers to Remilia just Remilia because of her neutral stance. Because a lot of people refer to Remilia as the vampire, she could indeed be the one to start the vampire incident. Beyond Perfect Memento, possible evidence of Remilia being related to the vampire incident is the possibility of gathering humans from the outside world as food from the contract, but it never states Remilia ever got the humans from the contracts. Now I made that video back in October 15th, 2015 when this fact was the most current thing, But now, we've gotten new info from Strange Creators of Outer World Volume 2, Profile Section, Cross Review Section on Remilia that indeed confirms that she was behind the incident. Huh. It only took us about a decade, but we finally have definitive fact that Remilia was indeed the one behind it. Better late than never. Titles. Let's look at the titles Remilia has over the games. She has the Eternal Young Scarlet Moon, the Eternally Young Scarlet Moon, the Eternally Red Young, World of Crimson, Vampire of the Heavy Fog, Nocturnal Devil of Scarlet, and her most famous one, the Scarlet Devil. Ability/powers. We're going to be looking at her powers and abilities, and holy shit, do we have our work cut out for us. As a vampire, Remilia has tremendous physical abilities, superhuman strength and speed, and magical powers. According to Perfect Memento, vampires have the strength of Oni and the speed of Tengu that allow them to uproot 1,000-year-old trees single-handedly and to run through the human village in a flash. Chill there, Sonic! While the true extent of these abilities is unknown, Remilia's profile in Immaterial describes her as being faster than the eye can follow and strong enough to crush boulders, and in Silent Sinner, she claimed that she was able to fly around the moon, or at least around its fantastic version, in an extremely short period of time. Vampires also have the ability to summon and manipulate a great number of devils with a single shout, and to turn into a swarm of bats or even mist to escape or dodge an attack. Additionally, as long as their head remains intact, they can regrow the entire body in just one night. Because vampires possess all these capabilities, they are among one of the strongest species in Gensokyo. Pretty bullshit if you ask me. Like, holy fuck! Like most vampire, Remilia has the power of shapeshifting at her disposal and can change into a bat. However, unlike most vampires, her wings remain visible even when she is in human form, making it impossible to pass herself off completely as a human. Although that's debatable now. In Forbidden Scrollery Chapter 42 and 43, there's an event where people are telling ghost stories. Many humans show up, like Kozuzu and Akyu, but the most important part was the yokais came as well. Yukari, Yuriko, Mamizo, and Remilia to name a few. Yukari, Yuriko, and Mamizo could pass as humans as they look pretty normal at first glance, and Mamizo could transform, but Remilia wouldn't be able to pass as one because of her wings. But in these chapters, it's shown that she was able to participate without scaring people because she can hide her wings. I'll be showcasing panels where Remilia is shown. They're usually small, but not so much that you can't identify Remilia. This is where hats come in handy. And every single one you don't see wings. Not only that, there's another panel where it says the humans were unaware of the non-humans in their presence. And again, the only way the villagers wouldn't have noticed is if Remilia could hide her wings. Don't forget what I said about in her appearance section. She also has a pair of large black bat-like wings on her back with a wingspan wider than her height. Meaning that shit ain't small. Alright, that's enough of the wings. Because she has the ability to summon and manipulate devils, it would be natural for her employing them in great numbers. However, the SDM currently only has one little devil, Kokuma, usually seen around the library of the mansion, in employment. It remains a mystery as to why so many fairy maids are employed instead. Vampires like Remilia are also agelessly immortal, as they forfeit growth and maturity in exchange for eternal life. Let's talk about an ability that's signature to Remilia's figure. Her ability to manipulate the fate. In the current worldview of Gensokyo, there isn't detailed information concerning this ability, nor an instance where Remilia clearly used it. Thus, what this ability actually entails is quite uncertain. If the power is as potent as it suggests, then for any enemies that she confronts, she should be able to change fate to her advantage that she could always win. However, since Remilia does sometimes lose, this does not seem to be the case. This could just be because of the spell card rules, however. Similar to how Reimu is not allowed to easily win any battle by using her ability to float out of reality, before Marissa came out with Fantasy Nature, which has a time limit and thus is not completely unbeatable. It is unclear whether Remilia manipulates it intentionally or if she can only change the fate of things around her without being aware of doing so. Thus, there exists speculation as to whether she could truly use it. The best representation of this ability would be in several of her spell cards where she uses red chains that chases the enemy. Chains are commonly associated with destiny. According to Akyu in Perfect Memento, it seems to be those in her vicinity will be followed by bad fortune. This may be a use of her ability similar to Hina's ability to spread curses and misfortune by merely being close to someone else. However, this is not an effect that can be quantified. Q also states that Remilia can bring great changes in one's daily lives with nothing more than a word, but as mentioned before, it is still something that can't be measured. As such, no one can know when or if she's actually doing it. In Bohemian, according to her little sister Flandre, the true nature of the ability may simply be to know what happens in the future. However, Flandre also said that it's just that she, aka Remilia, just likes to talk that way, and thus may just be an act of pretense. A power I was surprisingly not expecting to cover was the ability to manipulate blood. In the Grimoire of Marissa, it's told that Remilia can control and use blood to attack in some of her spell cards. Oh boy, that can be scary! And messy at the same time. She also has a healing factor. She can regenerate even if most of her body is destroyed, as long as about one of the bats she splits into survives. Considering she can spawn an unlimited number of bats, she might as well be able to regenerate from a single cell. When she tried to touch the incomplete moon rocket in Silent Sinner, her hand was almost completely charred away and she healed it back to normal without a second thought. Bloody fuck! As if being strong and fast wasn't good enough, now she has regeneration power into her list. And she still lost to the Moon Sisters. Fuck. Music. In this section, we'll be looking at the themes Remilia has had over the years. She only has two, her stage theme and her boss theme. Her boss theme is the only track of hers that's been remixed in the fighters. Her stage theme is the young descendant of Teps in EOSD Stage 6. Her boss theme is called Septet for the Dead Princess. It's first heard in EOSD as Remilia's boss theme. It's later remixed in Immaterial and Scarlet Weather. Even though she was playable in Hiso Tensoko, there is no new remix for it. The Scarlet Weather track was used for Remilia in that game. Let's look at the Immaterial one. Next will be the Scarlet Weather. Gameplay. Let's look at Remilia when it came to the main games. When it comes to Imperishable's gameplay, she's actually the fastest when it comes to the yokai of all four teams. You can consider that a good or bad thing. Her familiar is called Servant's Flyer. The unique thing about this is that whenever you switch to Focus Stance, you summon 4 circles at her initial area. They'll remain there and continue firing until Remilia is switched out. Her shot is called Night Dance. Her spell card is called Scarlet Sign, Red the Nightless Castle. Her last spell is called Scarlet Devil, Scarlet Devil. Last spells are activated after being hit. So if you're Sakya and you got hit, you activate Scarlet Devil, Scarlet Devil. Yes, I'm not shitting you. Scarlet Devil, Scarlet Devil. You'll soon know why she had a spell card named like that. With only one playable appearance in the main games, let's look at the fighters. In the game of Immaterial, she is nowhere as powerful, but she's still ranked among the stronger of the characters due to her aggressive moveset and high speed. With the ability to air dash 3 times instead of 2, and a special ground dash that leaves her bereft of Gray's attacks, Remilia's playstyle may be familiar to those who play other fighting games and is simple yet effective in the context of Immaterial. Some of her pros are high mobility, can easily spirit crush after cornering opponents, does not give many point items. Some of her cons, however, are need bombs for combos, bullets have limited coverage, somewhat weak air to air, which is pretty funny considering she has wings! You'd think she'd be best at air fights, but never mind. Let's review Remilia in general when it came to the 3 fighters she was in. Remilia possesses extremely quick melee attack but weak projectiles. She possesses a unique dash in-flight method that is fast but lacks flexibility. Remilia possesses excellent anti-air options and her dashes give her strong jump-ins. Her quick movement speed and attacks give her an aggressive playstyle, and her pressure game is powerful to match. Playing Remilia requires mastery of her special movement as well as the ability to get the most out of hits. The pros are strong unpredictable mobility, easy to gain momentum, ground dash allows some easy escapes from the corner, strong staggers and block strings with and without the use of orbs, extremely fast and long reaching normals, strong wake up game with the ability to consistently cross up, good at manipulating opponent's ground tech direction, good anti-airs, strong aerial pressure, combos will lead to a knockdown anywhere from the screen, low reliance on alternative specials, fast walk speed, powerful, easy to confirm spell cards, convert extremely well from fast hitting normals. Some of the cons, however, are fixed movement, unable to block mid-dash, lacks airtight option when opponents correctly blocks, ineffective in long distance fights. There are some notable things about Remilia. Unlike most characters, Remilia's forward air dash and forward aerial border escape causes her to lose altitude. Remilia's unique form of flight is teleportation. Instead of flying, Remilia will vanish and reappear a fixed distance in a specific direction. Remilia loses 1 orb of spirit for each teleport she does, with a maximum of 2. Remilia can chain teleports for continuous grazing, but can be interrupted by melee attacks. Remilia's ground dash involves her arcing forwards into the air for a moment before landing. At the apex of her leap, the game considers her to be in the air, allowing her to cancel her dash into aerial moves. While her forward dash grazes continuously, her back dash leaps will not. Remilia cannot fight in outside stages without having a single custom parasol system card in her deck. If an outside stage is selected and Remilia's deck has no custom parasol, the stage will change to either Fusion Reactor Core, SDM4, or SDM Library. The game is so generous to Remilia that even it won't allow Remilia to get sunburned. Spell cards. In this section, we'll be looking at the spell cards Remilia used the most throughout all her game appearances. But aside from that, we'll be looking at the more uniquely named spell cards, that's for sure. The first spell card I want to cover is called Red Magic. That's about it when it came to the name. The main thing is that aside from spamming a bunch of bullets, in EOSD, she's actually bomb proof during this mode. When you bomb her in the spell card, she turns into a bat but takes no bomb damage. Rather convenient for her. The next spell card is called Curse, Curse of Vlad Tepes. I only wonder who Remilia can be referring to. Next is Divine Spear, Spear the Gunir. A spell card that throws Damaku at an ultra high speed that it turns into a sharp spear. Well, gotta go fast, right? Now I want to look at the more strangely named spell cards. To start it off, Midnight Sign, Bad Lady Scramble. Not too weird, but nor conventional. Next is Devil, Remilia Stretch. That's something. And my favorite of the bunch, Duck, Duck, Bat. I couldn't say bullshit even if I wanted to. Yeah. She might not be the best gal when it came to spell cards, or maybe the best, depending on your point of view. Relationships. In this section, we'll be looking at Remilia's relationship with the girls. We gotta start it off with her sister. Remilia Scarlet is Remilia's younger sister. Remilia is stated to respect her sister, and Remilia cares for Remilia as shown where she is considering getting her a good tutor in Imperishable. But it is unknown how often the two interact. Perfect Memento states that it's rare, but not non-existent, to see Remilia and Remilia together. The only time in an official work they are depicted together is in Bohemian and Forbidden Scrollery, the form which also shows that Remilia will at least allow Aya to interview Flandre in the first place. The interview shows that although Flandre might respect her older sister, it's to the extent you expect a snarky kid to. She is willing to outright state when she thinks Remilia is just spouting nonsense, at which point Remilia comes in with a comment that she shouldn't be talking about her older sister like that. Hey man, no one can take bullshit when they hear it. Another important person to Remilia is her trusty chief maid. Sakya Izaya serves Remilia as the head maid without a question, a certitude with which no one knows why either trust each other so much. Perfect Memento gives the most popular theory. She follows Remilia's request even when she knows it won't work, such as catching Lily White to catch Spring in Strange, because that's what her mistress wants. When Remilia playfully criticizes Sakya for her failure to catch Spring, she takes it in good stride and doesn't disagree. She will also do things for Remilia if Remilia doesn't even ask, like accompanying her in Imperishable and Immaterial. As stated in her profile, occasionally she's more a babysitter than a maid. She chastises Remilia in her Scarlet Weather and Immaterial victory quotes for sneaking out food or playing around too much. Someone's gotta teach the mistress some manners. In the mansion, Remilia has a good friend located in the library. Patchouli Knowledge is Remilia's friend. In PCB's ending, Remilia called Patchouli Patchy. The two have been depicted having tea and casual conversations together in Silent Sinner and Oriental, where Patchouli offhandedly commented that they're both creatures of the night. As stated in Perfect Memento, Patchouli's role at the mansion is to solve problems and to cause them, although it is uncertain if that means she's officially an employee or not. Regardless, Patchouli will often volunteer her services when she sees Remilia in need of them, such as causing a rainstorm to keep Flandre confined to the SDM when Flandre was trying to get out in EOSD. It is unknown how Patchouli came to live at the Scarlet Devil Mansion, but she has been there for about 100 years. Quite a long time in my opinion. Every mansion has to have a gatekeeper, right? Hong Mei-ling is the gatekeeper of the SDM and thus an employee of Remilia's. Mei-ling serves her mistress faithfully and loyally, but not necessarily competently all the time, apologizing to her not present mistress when she fails to defeat Remu or Marissa in EOSD. The only known depiction of an actual interaction between Remilia and Mei-ling in an official work is their win quotes to each other in Immaterial, as well as Hiso Tensoko, which depicts their interaction as a generally friendly one. Other interactions are stated in other works, however. Bohemian shows that Remilia likes to play pranks on Mei-ling quite often, the latest in the article being an order for Mei-ling to restore the garden to normal, despite how Remilia knew it was beyond Mei-ling's ability to do so. A clear Class A douchebag move. Perfect Memento also mentions that Remilia enjoys watching Mei-ling's duels with challengers at the gate. It is unknown how Mei-ling came to be under Remilia's employ, or who hired her. An advertisement in Bohemian shows that Sakya is the one currently in charge of hiring at the SDM, but that doesn't mean she was the one who hired Mei-ling. Similar to Mei-ling, the fairy maids must put up with Remilia's outrageous requests from time to time, as stated in Perfect Memento, and Remilia gets frustrated with her fairies in Silent Sinner when they turn out to be quite useless during their battle against Yorihime and her rabbits. Punishments, however, are never mentioned or depicted, with Remilia only going so far as to make an angry comment on the subject. Presumably, Remilia knows how to manage her employees' needs as well, as in Strange Chapter 1, Remilia tells Sakya to let the maids relax, because if they get worked too hard, they'll get mental health issues. This chapter shows the maids conversing in an official work, where they're worried about an upcoming soybean festival because those tend to put the mistress in a bad mood and are difficult to clean up. Yeah, I can imagine so. Perfect Memento states that the employees of SDM are allowed to leave their jobs at any time, yet most end up staying. This could also imply that the employees of the SDM are not bound by the Devil's contract, not including Sakya. The place has gotta be legit if they're willing to stay on their own free will. Following the events of Waldenhorn Hermit Chapter 14, Remilia employs a number of hobgoblins as servants. They definitely don't have the cute factors behind them, that's for sure. Kokuma is a devil seen in the library of the SDM during EOSD. The relationship between her and Remilia is unknown. Her official profile says that she lives in the SDM, so it could be said that she is technically under the employment of Remilia indirectly. Believe it or not, Remilia has a pet toupee. Unfortunately, it's not that creature, I can assure you. Touhou is Remilia's pet chupacabra. Never thought I'd say that in a sentence. It's implied that she somehow mistook it for an actual toupee, but still called it Touhou anyway. I mean, it's a name, I guess. Outside of the mansion, let's look at a person Remilia talks to a bit, Remu. It is unknown if Remilia was involved in the discussion with Remu that led to the creation of the spell card rules. Certainly, EOSD was where Remu first met the other residents of the SDM, and also where she discovered that Remilia was the Mistress. Remu's actual dialogue with Remilia herself, however, does not necessarily indicate whether they knew each other prior to the meeting or not. At any rate, after the battle in EOSD, Remilia often drops by the Hakare Shrine to hang out with Remu. She is one of several yokai depicted where Remu complains about yokai hanging around in his shrine in Wild, and Remu successfully argues in an early chapter of Strange that she should be allowed into a party at the SDM because Remilia always comes to her shrine. Although Remilia is fond of Remu, she still has a rivalry of sorts with the Shrine Maiden too, and is more than happy to get into a duel with her, as shown in Imperishable and Remilia's storyline in Scarlet Weather. Gotta get that rematch! A person I wasn't expecting to be talking about is Aya. Like most characters, Remilia has been interviewed by Aya as an involuntary source of news for her. Unlike other characters, however, Remilia seems to actually enjoy Aya's visits. Now that's a first. Remilia plays along with Aya in Scarlet Weather, pretending to be a monster in the SDM, and afterwards requests that Aya tells her if or when it gets in the news. She asks if she could be allowed to write an editorial for Aya's newspaper in her victory quote to Aya. Aya remarks to Mei Ling in her Hiso Tensoku quote that she has a lot to thank the SDM for due to its mass subscription to her newspaper and providing a lot of scoops. Remilia still gets annoyed when Aya just assumes she can come into the Scarlet Devil Mansion without being invited at the end of Silent Center, but lets her come along anyway. More welcoming than 90% of the cast, that's for sure. An important figure to discuss is the Gap Yokai. Yukari Yakumo used Remilia as part of her scheme to extract the residents' tax and get revenge on the Lunarians in Silent Center. Patchouli reveals Remilia knew she was manipulated but didn't care because she was bored. Remilia herself has an unexplained rivalry of sorts with Yukari, wanted to get to the moon in her own way before Yukari could surprise her. This rivalry might be due to the power struggle mentioned in Perfect Memento's vampire article, possibly starting with the vampire incident. The rivalry is mostly friendly and only Remilia seems to care, as Remilia has no objections to Yukari staying for the party at the end of Silent Sinner or assisting her with investigating in Scarlet Weather. Dialogue in Immaterial seems to imply they've already known each other before the game. It is possible they met at the vampire incident and that Yukari was the one that signed the contract with Remilia. Fun/interesting facts! With all the relationships discussed, let's look at some of the fun or interesting facts about Remilia. Due to the young descendants of Teps, the title of the prelude theme to the final boss stage of EOSD, she has sometimes been linked to Count Dracula's lineage. This is because Dracula's full name is Vlad Tepes Dracul. While Remilia herself claims that she is a literal descendant of Teps, Zune claims that she is lying. Of course she's lying! According to Gitsoku's timeline, Remilia was born in the year 1503, making her as well as Flandre two of the very few characters whose birth dates are actually known. Hell, I even talked about it in my interesting Touhou facts. It is quite coincidental that Remilia's appearance was in the 6th game of Touhou. She is the stage 6 boss, and the players will fight through 6 spell cards on that stage on any playable difficulty above easy. Remilia has 5 spell cards total, and Sakyo has 1 in her mid-stage boss appearance. When those numbers are put together, it reads 666, best known as the number of the Beast. Although I never pictured the Beast to be this short vampire. Remilia's theme starts the same as Beethoven's Piano Sonata number 8 Path to Q 3rd movement. I probably really fucked that up. Let me show ya. This next one is kinda trolly. In Curiosity of Lotus Asia Chapter 4, Remu comments that Remilia should go back to her coffin. Remilia retorts that coffins are for the dead, indicating that she doesn't sleep in a coffin. In Imperishable Scarlet Team's scenario, before battling Remu, Remilia once again reminds her that she doesn't sleep in a coffin. Finally, in Oriental Chapter 15, released 7 years later, what's apparently the first canonical depiction of Remilia's bedroom is shown. and that she sleeps in a coffin. Motherfucker! You had one job, and you fucked it up! And don't even get me started with the whole coffin on top of the bed, because that's a whole different fucking issue. Alright, enough of me being tilted as fuck. Let's talk about something else. Her first 5 alternate palettes in Hiso Tensoko resembles Flandre, Patchouli, Mei Ling, Sakya, and Kokuma respectively. Now that's pretty legit. We're gonna take a look at her name again. Since Remilia is a corruption of the name Emilia, a rather common name in France, and Scarlet is an alternative spelling to Scarlet, a common French surname, it's possible, but not certain, that Remilia is from France. Her sister name, Flandre, is further evidence. Flandre is a French term for people from the province of Flanders, a region that, while today is in southern Belgium, was historically a part of France. Fan-on stuff! With the facts discussed, let's look at Remilia when it came to the fandom. Oh boy, this should be a while. The best known meme associated with Remilia is Charisma Break, or her noble composure breaking, revealing her childish self. It's not clear what exactly inspired it, but a leading factor is her crouching block pose in the fighting games. When I first saw the pose on the wiki, I thought I was being trolled, but it's actually legit. Various artists take different routes with this meme, with some having others enjoy seeing it happen while others have it happen at the drop of a hat. There are some artists who subvert this by having Remilia's composure remain intact no matter what happens. This has some basis in canon, as Remilia is fond of acting like a vampire while having some childish tendency, such as her crouching block. Some fanworks have postulated that Remilia uses her power to manipulate fate unconsciously, otherwise it would be far too great a power. For instance, if she was able to control a person's fate actively, she could have made it Reimu's fate to lose to her, although the spell card's rules prevent this. However, Zune has hinted otherwise in Sakya's Perfect Memento article, where Akio has speculated that Remilia may have manipulated Sakya's fate in such a way that she could have a more friendly relationship with other human beings. Should that prove to be true, it would mean that Remilia can indeed intentionally, or at least consciously, manipulate fate. Some fans think her ability enables the desired effect, but not how it happens or how long it takes for it to happen. This will make it an ability poorly suited for fast wins, but make it very useful for long-term schemes, something vampires are said to be fond of. And you really don't want vampires to be scheming. Sounds too annoying. While it's common to have a parasol with Remilia and Flandre in fanworks, many works have Remilia to not be weak against her weaknesses, such as garlic, sunlight, and water, even though these are hazardous to Remilia. She can be seen swimming in water, not bothered by garlic, or even walking in broad daylight. These kind of fanworks make people come to conclusions that she is actually a vampire daywalker, or has recently become one. We don't need another Wesley Snipes, do we? This would be due to not enough research was put into what weaknesses Remilia has, but some fans conclude that going outside in sunlight parasol list is canon because of a custom parasol system card in Hiso Tensoko, allowing to fight outdoors but without a parasol. This would explain why she can walk outside. Based on that, it can go either way with needing the parasol or not. As of late, Remilia seems to be given her own associated character from the JoJo's Bizarre Adventure series, much like there are a number of others, frequently being crossed over with Diavolo, whose stand, King Crimson, erases time for everyone but himself and allows him to see the future, effectively allowing him to alter his immediate fate to suit himself. I'm not gonna lie, those two look weird as fuck. Touhou's music is no doubt awesome, but her theme takes the cake. Remilia's boss theme is one of the most popular from 2014 to 2017. It's ranked first, second, and second in the Touhou popularity contest. Funny enough, the track that was second and later first was her sister's theme, Flandre's boss theme. UNON was her. There's some miscellaneous stuff I want to discuss. She is a popular antagonist in some fanworks due to her fondness of being the big bad vampire and her short temper, often with some exaggerations mixed in. And trust me, those exaggerations can be something else. She is sometimes shown as a tsundere in some fan art due to her noble woman tendencies. Looks like she'll be joining Alice in that department. As the oldest sister, she is commonly called Ojo-sama by fans, and is what is primarily used to refer to her. Whenever Flandre refers to her sister though, she is called One-sama. Another common nickname is Remilia, though it's mainly used for cutesy rendition of her. It might be cutesy to some, I found that fucking annoying to say. There's a common joke that Sakuya calls her Ozu-sama instead, which has made it a very common nickname for her. If I knew what it meant, I'd tell ya. Some Western fans will shorten Remilia's name to Remy or Remy, understandable as Patchouli refers to her as such. A common meme regarding Remilia is Remilia ooh, which some people think is cute. I didn't know about this till now, so I can't comment on it. Some fans, and at least one fan comic, have made fun of her bizarre naming sense, seen in her fighting game spell cards. I'm fucking glad someone pointed that out! While Remilia doesn't actually own the legendary weapon Gungnir, or any weapon at all, she is often depicted wielding an actual spear as to match Flauncher's Leviathan. Its appearances range from a single energy made weapon, like in a spell card, to a fine and very elegant spear, depending from the artist, and for the longest time, I honestly thought she had the Gungnir. That's where character profiles come in handy. Pairings. With that part discussed, let's look at Remilia's pairings. One of Remilia's pairing, which actually got 4th in the best partner section on the 2017 Touhou popularity contest, is Remilia and Sakuya, or Remi-Saku. Many theories have been proposed to explain why Sakuya is so devoted in her service to Remilia. Is she a defeated vampire hunter? Does Remilia feed on her blood? Is she just a lolicon? A little of all three. The phrase Remi-Saku ga Kyu no tea time, Remi-Saku is today's tea time, is commonly used to declare support for this pairing. Tea time it is. The next pairing will involve our shrine maiden, Reimu and Remilia, or Remi-Rei. In one of the endings of EOSD, it is mentioned that Remilia often visits the Hakurai shrine to have tea with Reimu. Naturally, this was taken further. Clearly, if I have to talk about this, the phrase Remi-Rei ga ore no destiny, Remi-Rei is my destiny, is commonly used to declare support for this pairing. Hope your destiny is chill and all that. The next pairing will involve our favorite gatekeeper, Mei Ling and Remilia, or Mei Remi. In addition to the popularity of Remi-Saku and Mei-Saku, it is also known that Mei Ling has been serving Remilia far longer than Sakuya. Of no surprise, this next one involves her sibling, Remilia and Flauncher, or Remi-Fura, the two Scarlet sisters and most known vampires in the series. Like always, that's all I got. Another pairing will be her good friend from the library, Remilia and Patchouli, or Remi-Pachu. Patchouli is a close friend to Remilia that Remilia has allowed her to live in her house, probably for centuries. In fact, as seen in Bohemian, they call each other by the abbreviated names. This suggests some level of intimacy. Another one that still surprises me is Alice and Remilia, or Remi-Ari. This is due mainly to their conversation in Immaterial as well as Scarlet Weather. But yeah, that concludes Remilia's character profile. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this profile. Which facts of Remilia did you guys enjoy the most? Were you impressed at all the powers and abilities she can wield? Do you believe Remilia can truly wield destiny? Or are you down to see her charisma break? Like always, if you guys enjoyed this episode, please give it a like and subscribe, or else I might be the next target for her meal. If it happens, I'm breaking a shit ton of garlic and roasted beans. But yeah, like always, this is Magi, and thanks again for watching.